My BMW M5 is back on the channel. It's been a few months since its last presence, and I'm going to be focusing on replacing the battery and a few small items. Later, I will be doing a short DIY for my Porsche 911. Why am I inside my M5? I've mentioned many times before that this is my favorite car I've ever owned, and it's also the longest car I've ever owned. I purchased it in 2018, so I'm going on about 7 years of ownership. On the last episode, I mentioned that there's some things that I want to get done on my M5. I know it's been missing on the channel for a while, but I've still been driving it around. It's running good, there's no problems with it, but there are a few things on episode 100 that I mentioned I want to focus on for this particular car. So the one I wanted to cover on today's vlog is the battery. The battery's been on this car, according to the Carfax report, since 2017. So that's 8 years I've gone that this car has been with the same battery. And so far the battery hasn't given me any real signs that it's diminishing. So what I did was I ran some tests with my Autel, and I'll run a few slides on the results of that a little bit later. I just want to talk a little bit about if anyone owns this car and if they're planning to change the batteries, what kind of things you can do to determine when it's ready to change the battery. Before we get into those details, I'm going to show you where the battery is located in the M5 and how to take it out. So let's go to the back of the trunk and open it up. So here's the trunk right in the bottom part over here towards the middle. There is a tab where you can pull over, and once you lift it up, the battery is exposed. The removal of the battery is pretty straightforward and simple. It's just held down by two nuts that are 10 millimeter. You got one on the negative side and then one on the positive side. This one's just underneath the plastic cover, so once you remove it, it'll expose the nut. But those are two 10 millimeter nuts, and then the tie downs, the battery tie down is held by two 13 millimeter nuts. So once you remove these, there's also on the side here, it's right underneath here. See if we can get that. I have to move a little bit. It's right there. That's the battery vent hose. And so that connects on that side. The one on this side is just plugged in, so you don't really need to have that just on one side. And once you disconnect that, the battery will be able to easily be removed. Now that I got the battery out of the M5, I'm going to head to Costco and purchase a new battery. I'm back from the Costco trip, and now I'm going to proceed with reinstalling the new battery on. So I'm going to drop a few slides and show you the process. Now that my battery is installed, before I register the battery, I want to go into a little bit more details on why it's important. The average lifespan of a BMW is usually about 5 to 7 years, and this is reaching 8 years. So even though it didn't go out on me, I just want to do this as a preventative maintenance because I don't want to get stuck on the side of the road. And I did a few tests to verify if it doesn't need a replacement. So I'll run a few slides on that. But I definitely wanted to replace this because according to the Autel, it was telling me that the battery was due for a change. As the battery ages, it loses its charging capacity. So registering a new battery, especially for BMWs that are 2002 and newer, the DME needs to understand that there's a new battery in and it should adjust its settings to the original statistics to avoid overcharging. And what this does is it preserves the life of the battery. It also prevents any damage to the alternator or the electrical system. So it's always important to register the battery. For this particular one, because it was a direct swap, so it has the same battery type and the same capacity. So it was pretty simple and straightforward to register the new battery. I like to keep checklists of all my cars on what items I need to get done. So for the M5, I could check this right off. There's a couple of small items I ordered from FCP Euro that I need for both my 911 and my M5. So I'm gonna flip the camera around and go to my workbench and talk a little bit about those things. These are the items that came in the mail. This is the door handle pivot lever for my 911. I have that pretty common problem with my door handle inside the car where it's sagging a little bit and it's affecting the window from opening and closing. I wanted to replace this one. For my M5, I do have the LEDs for the license plate lights. And although it looks nice with the super bright color, it does trigger a little warning light on my dash. So I want to go back to the regular OEM spec license plate lights because the ones I had for that I actually put on my 911. So I need to get a new set and that's what I'm going to do so I could get rid of that light. The next one is these little grommets here that go on the doors. Let me go ahead and show you on my M5 where that goes. So right here is where it broke. I think on the corner it cracked and it was loose, so I eventually just pulled it out. On BMWs, this is a pretty common grommet that breaks, so I was able to source it at FCP Euro and bought a couple just in case in the future it breaks because I don't want to have to order another set and have it shipped again. Installation is pretty simple. You just basically slide it in, find the right angle, and then pinch it down. We're all set. I'm gonna open up the back door and it's the exact same one. What I want to do now is talk about the door handle on my 911. So let's go ahead and open the door and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Notice how the handle is a little loose. You see that? It's pretty common with other 911 owners that complain about this door handle going out on them. So the mechanism is actually behind here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the door card and access this area here so they can replace it. Here's an update on the door panel. I took out all the screws already. Here's one of them. Here's one of them here. I also took out the handle. There's one screw right here. Took off a screw right there. There's another one down here. And one inside there. So I'm gonna pull this out and then start working on the lever. Now that the panel is removed from the door, this is the lever that I'll be replacing. I already disconnected some of the wires, but I'll disconnect this one so I can easily work on it. Here is the replacement pivot lever. And we'll be replacing that one. Here's a comparison between the two. The old one is on the left, and then the new one's on the right. Notice how the coils on the left here is no longer secured, whereas the new one is. I think that's where all the play was. That's why the lever was dangling, because the coil wasn't secured. My pivot lever is now installed. It's not dangling anymore, it's really tight. So now I'm not gonna have any problems with the window closing when I close the door. You notice right now when the door is open, it comes down about 1/4 inch. And when I close the door, that's when it goes up and seals the door. With this lever being loose, what was happening was it wasn't fully engaging. So even when I close the door, it will still have that gap sometimes. To add some context to this project, I was able to actually get two things done. Not only was I able to get a more tighter door lever, I was also able to eliminate the noise. So because the spring wasn't in place, it was making this rattling noise sometimes when I drive. And I'm going to try to replicate it as much as I can by shaking it. And of course, when they're driving, it's a lot more higher. The sound rate is a lot more higher, but that was a sound that was bothering me. So I was able to get two jobs done in one project. Before Monterey Car Week, I also want to address the little bit of the window alignment on the passenger side. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I changed the window regulator, and when I put everything back together, it was just slightly off-aligned. It does go up and seal it, but I do hear at certain speeds some air leaking through. So I want to take care of that before I make the long drive to Monterey. So in a future episode, I'll go over that process. I'm glad that is out of the way now, because in addition to it being a little quirky with the windows going up and down, it also had a little rattle. And I'm not too sure, in a few episodes when I'm recording inside this car, you'll hear a little rattling going on, and that is accounted for with this lever as well. So now that I replaced it, it basically got rid of the rattle and also the problem with the windows going up and down. On the next episode, I have more updates for my 911 for Monterey Car Week. So I want to go over some of those items that I have planned for it. And then also, I haven't been to a car event in a couple months now. So I want to definitely go out and meet some of my friends and visit one of the local Cars and Coffee here in Southern California. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on the next one. Wow.